Hello there, welcome to the channel. I'm Glockster, and I'm going to be showing you guys Solargene. This is a hidden gem of a game I stumbled across on Steam. It's by a solo Russian, I believe, developer, Alexander Semenov, and it's been in early access since December of 2021. And for a game that's been in early access at this point for about 8 months, I've had one crash in over 30 hours of gameplay, which to me speaks pretty highly. And the reason I'm doing this video, or this hopefully Let's Play series, is that I've seen some stuff on YouTube. I like watching other YouTubes of games that I get interested in, and I've seen some stuff on YouTube, but unfortunately with this guy being a Russian developer, it seems to have a lot of European following. And almost all the YouTube content I found on it so far has been either Dutch, German, or Russian, none of which I speak. So I figured I would try putting some content out there and seeing if we can maybe start up a community on this game, because I've really enjoyed it. One of the things I'll say about it is you'll see a lot of negative reviews on Steam because the UI is pretty rough. But if you can stick through the first half hour or two, get used to the UI, it's totally playable, and the game is just a lot of fun. So we're gonna get started. We're gonna go through and start up a moon colony. It's kind of the default start that they recommend. And we'll get into it. So I'm not going to go through the tutorial for you guys, but I'm going to cover what I think is, well, crucial. And a lot of the tips and tricks that I've found that are kind of that learning curve that you got to overcome. So here we are around our little blue orb. And the moon is where we're actually getting started. Now you can pan around on the star map here, holding right shift, and you can also turn if you hold your center mouse button. That took me a while to figure that one out. You have up here 6 countries in the top left. These countries never change, but on each playthrough, the spaceport available, whether you're starting on the moon or on Mars or one of the other locations, there's only one nationality represented. The general idea of the game is all the nationalities are advancing into the solar system. So in this particular case, we have the United States as the spaceport. So what that means is we're going to ideally be looking for missions, or a mission that is going to provide us with a lot of fundage from the United States on the moon, because it makes all of the resource gathering or all of the resource purchasing much easier. So if we click on the United States here, we get a option for your contracts that they have available. The established colony contract is pretty much a must. This is going to give us 19 million credits to establish colony on the moon of 32 colonists, and you have to provide them with a job and housing. It's not an option. So I'm going to go ahead and take that and sign the contract. Now, the other thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and look at the other countries and see what contracts they offer. Russia wants a moon colony also, but it's a lot more difficult because of the fact that there's no spaceport for Russia, which means we have to import those colonists from Earth to the moon, which means we're going to have to build a spaceship in orbit around Earth to pick up those colonists and ferry them to the moon. So it's going to be a little more difficult. China's probably going to be the same way. Look at that, 31 million for a moon colony with 25 colonists. They also want a ship built for 3. And then there's cargo delivery missions. Some of these cargo delivery missions and resource missions, you get technologies, and we'll cover that here in a minute. We also have Europe. Once again, they have resource, tourism missions, which I've never touched, and of course, a moon colony. Imagine that. Everybody wants a moon colony. Then we have Japan. Yet again, moon colony, and they're paying really, really well for it. And it's way out on June 27th, so we'll end up picking this one up pretty quick. More research, which is always good. You can end up doing those, getting extra credits. And then we have India. India wants a spaceship and a bunch of research, no colony, which is interesting. So, we have picked up our first contract, though, and it says we have 21 days to complete it. So we're going to establish a colony on the planet, and we have to pick where that colony is going to be. So I'm going to scroll in and zoom into the planet, or moon. Now, if you come up here and you bring up your minerals, the properties are kind of properties generally for the planet or moon. We don't really care about them right now, but these minerals, you'll notice, they change. Now the upper right minerals here, these don't change. These are general values for the planet or the moon. These, however, are the values that are local to where you are building that base. So as you see, these move around a lot. What I always go for on the moon, after a couple plays, is I try and get the transuranic elements that you can turn into uranium. It's nice to have ice. You're always going to have a lot of soil. And you'll also get noble metals, which are useful, and sometimes you can simply sell them, which is good. So I'm going to pan around here, and we are going to try and find a decent spot here on the moon. As I'm moving and moving, hey, we're getting some decent refractory metals, but we need a little more ice, would be nice. And I think that's going to be about good. We got some transuranic. Yeah, we'll go right there. And we'll call this... This is for USA contract. Alright. So now we want to switch to the station, which is going to take us in so we can actually work on the colony. So here we are on the moon. M-O-O-N, that spells moon. And we're kind of between a couple of craters here. The nice thing is, I can, and once again, this is panning around, holding the middle mouse button. And looking around, it seems as if there is a little more flat territory up over that way. So, I'm going to scooch over that way a little. ASWD keys will do your basic movement. You can also pan while you're moving. And I think right over here looks pretty decent. Well, we'll see. Maybe in this little flat crater. We'll see how flat it is. So, first thing you got to do is you got to put down a landing spot. There was one. It's always a good idea to have two or three fairly close together. I'm going to drop one right there, and then I'm going to drop another right there. Now the next thing that you really have to do is you have to get some initial resources. The Resources that you're going to be after are going to be right here. The first one is going to be your solar panels, and then the next one is going to be structural components, which you can buy right up here. Once again, the only option you have is to buy them from the United States. So here's our structural components. Here's our solar panels. Some of the other things I know we're going to need right off are non-ferrous metals and rare metals. We use those to make the batteries, which are going to be the next thing we unlock. So the first thing we want to do is pick up some structural and a little bit of solar panels. We'll also pick up some non-ferrous metal and rare metals. This says it's going to take 2 shuttles, cost us almost 700,000 credits, and we'll get those on the way. Now, what you can do is down here in the bottom right, where your date is and your time, we have our game speed. So we can bump that up, and that will show us that our shuttles will be arriving in 15 minutes, and here they come. There's the first one, there's the second one. Until the shuttles leave, until they blast off, you don't actually have your items in the warehouse. But once they blast off, you can see we're starting to get the items in the warehouse. So there we go. I'm going to go ahead and slow it back down, and we'll throw those solar panels down. That's now not grayed out or redded out, I guess. So we'll throw those down right up here on this ridge. Now the first few that you throw down, if you see down here on the left side, bottom left under the state, it tells you that your construction robots are charging. Thankfully, you only have to deal with this kind of a little bit at the very beginning, anytime you're establishing a base or space station. One of the ways to get by this a little bit is, once again, bump up the clock speed. Now we can throw down another. I like to group these together. And once again, we have to wait for the bots to charge. I'll throw down a few more of these. And then the next thing we're going to need to do is, it's not daytime on the moon forever, so we're going to need some batteries. I'll put the batteries down up there also. And as soon as I drop the batteries down, you see we've unlocked a couple other things. Mainly we've unlocked the pillars or structural. I'm going to drop down another battery. And it does appear now I'm out of materials to create the batteries. As you can see, the non-ferrous metals are red now, so I can't build anymore until I buy more material. The other thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and throw down an extra gas storage tank. I'm going to put it over here, and then I'm going to start working on the structural. So what you see is the little green box tells you where you're at. Now, the thing I look for is I'm kind of making sure things are fairly flat, because I don't want to get into a situation where I suddenly can't build because I run into the ground. So once you throw down a structural, once again, you've started unlocking more stuff. Now this is your basic building block of pretty much everything. These particular buildings are composed of a variety of, well, they're all pretty much the same, but it's a grouping of different materials, structural components, lighting, and oxygen. The nice thing is there are a lot of different types that you can use. All these different forms. They really don't do anything in terms of gameplay, but it does give you a lot of variety in how you can build your particular buildings, your colonies. You can make your buildings different based upon their function, or just however it is that you like. Right now, however, we got to get some lighting and some oxygen, such that we can actually start doing the building. So we click on the finish construction, because we can't do anything more there right now, and we're going to buy. You do a lot of buying. So, actually, we still have about 300 and about 400 structurals. We need some more non-ferrous metal if we're going to throw down some more batteries. And then we need those lights and oxygen. The oxygen, as a resource, is a liquid or gas. And as such, will be held in the liquid or gas tanks, which is why I threw an extra one down. It just gives us a little more room. I'm going to go ahead and pull down a few more structurals because I know I'm going to need them. And then the other thing was the lights. We needed those. So we'll go ahead and grab several hundred of those because they're needed. A lot of other things here are needed. We're going to end up needing polymers. We're going to end up needing some heat-resistant compound, motors, electronics, optics, but we'll get them as we need them. For now, we'll order in this, and since we're on the faster speed, it won't take that long to get here. I believe I hear a shuttle incoming now. And there it is. And there it goes. And now we have the ability to actually build our stuff, our actual buildings, facilities. So we build, and then up here is where you decide what type of building you're building. The only thing available right now is an airlock. So what we have to do is we have to drop an airlock. Once we drop the airlock, it tells us we've unlocked hallways and some of the items, or a bunch of items that go along with hallways. At this point, what I want to do is I want to throw down actually another pillar right here. And then I'm going to throw down a walkway with stairs into the walkway. And then I'll build my hall. Once I put a hall on here, we're going to unlock a bunch more. So once we put the hall down, we've unlocked living quarters, spacious living quarters where you can basically, it's more like a barracks, robotics charging, and warehouse, which is what we're really looking for right away. And then the laboratory. Laboratories are good. Allow you to do research. Research, you can make money. Money is good. So, however, we can't put any doors on because we need optics and we need motors. So we'll go ahead and order some optics and motors, and then we'll get back to the construction while they're coming in. So a couple hundred optics, a couple hundred motors, and we'll start building out some stuff while we're waiting for that to get here. In fact, I'm going to slow the time down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to build out some warehouse space. Now, one of the oddities is that there's not really structural integrity so much as I can tell. Once you have a structural ground support on, I could build this out, forever and never have to put down another structural ground support. Don't know if that's going to change in the future. We'll obviously have to wait and see. So, I'm going to throw down some storage, but when I do, I've opened up industrial and power plant, as well as a whole lot of different components. Well, these are the components that are immediately available in an industrial space, and then the components immediately available, which is a generator, in the power plant. I'm going to continue putting down some storage though, because we're going to need it. Alright, now we're going to finish the construction and we're going to go in. Once you roll your, or scroll your, move, that's the word I'm looking for. Once you move your mouse over a finished building, you can click inside and you're going to bring up your structures that are available to be built inside the building. These, you can do a whole lot of different look and feel. They're all pretty much the same though. 2 structures, structural components, and they only grant you 1 additional storage unit space. So I'm going to put down a bunch of these, because by putting down a bunch of these, I can now import a lot more material. So now my storage is, I'm using 2 of 21 cubic meters. And that's for physical, material stuff, not liquids and gases. Which is why I had put down the liquid and gas storage. So now I've got some extra storage for both. Now I could really start bringing in a lot more materials to make the construction process go quicker. But the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that we can get into said storage unit. Not that it exactly matters. So I'm putting a door there, put a door there, and we will turn to where we can put a door to get in over there. So far what we've got is 2 landing pads, a gas liquid storage, and a small warehouse. From here, it's going to be time to start building out some place for our colonists or astronauts. So the next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make some living spaces. So I like to separate my warehouse. I kind of generally have been putting my warehouse and my power production together. But for a starter colony like this, you may not really need power production. Sun sets in 5 days, rises in 20. It's a long night on the moon. But we have 5 days to get things done. So we'll see if we can get this colony up and on its feet before we run out of daylight. So we're going to go back to the building. And, well, no, we're not. We're going to go to the pillar so we can decide. We'll drop this puppy right about there. And then we are going to put a platform on it. And then we are going to need to build an airlock to get into it, which is right there. And we'll put the airlock over on this side. Once again, as I pointed out, you don't need any structural support once you put that first piece down. I'm guessing that the developer is going to be changing that. It just makes sense. So next, what we want to do is we need to put some hallways down. That way we have kind of well, hallways are important because they provide seating area. So I'm going to put, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look back at the contract. So we'll go back up here and click. We need housing and jobs for 32 colonists. So we need to make sure that we're focused on that. So if I take and put apartments on both sides of the hallway, I'm going to need 16 hallway sections. And so I'm going to need to put down apartments or spacious living to accommodate 32 colonists. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put at least half of that into apartments. So we'll say starting here, put an apartment on either side of the hall. So that would be 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah. 10, 12, 14, 16. And now It looks so weird, doesn't it? It just floats out there. So now we're going to have apartments, living quarters. And once we have the living quarters, it tells us that there's yet again more stuff. Now there's the cafes, and there's also medical. And then there's belongings or resources that you can use in the apartments. So we're going to throw down apartments until we pretty much run out of resources. And look at that, out of materials once again. Structural components. This is the reason why we had taken and built the warehouse first. Because now we can order a lot more. Because we got the room. So, I'm going to go ahead and bring in 1,000 structural components. I'm also going to need some motors for the doors to get in and out of things. Still have about 100 or so. But I'm going to bring in a couple hundred more. Probably going to need to bring in some more lights, some more oxygen, and I'm going to go ahead and bring in the polymer, which is going to be used for making things like beds. And I think that'll do us for now. So we got 3 shuttles coming inbound. And it's going to be, we're starting to run low on our fundage. I say low, maybe not so low. However, one of these other countries wanted a moon colony, but it was way out, like toward the end of June. And they had a pretty decent contract fee for it. There's 20 million. Aha! Japan on June 27th, 35 colonists, 45 million. They do have a couple research that won't be able to sign on to until we get there. So I'm going to keep an eye on this one. I'll probably pick up this colony next because there's a lot of money involved in it. But I don't want to sign it because if I sign it, similar to the US, I don't have the ability to sign any other contracts. You can only have one contract at a time per country. So I'm going to hold off on doing it. That way, once I get some research going, I can pick up these research contracts to get a little bit more money here and there. We'll bump up the speed, bring in the resources quicker, and that way we can get back to the building. Building is pretty much the name of the game. So we have some materials. We're going to go back to making apartments. And then I'm going to put the apartments on the backside also. So here we go. Now we're going to have a lot of apartments. So this basically is apartments for half of our colonists that we need to bring here. One of the other things I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and add to this hallway. I like to make the hallways wide, and you'll see why. But I'll tell you also. It's simply because of the fact that every colonist needs seating. Every colonist or astronaut. So when you make a lot of wide hallways, you have a lot of room for seating. But right now what we need is doors. You have several different options for doors. And now I'm going to start working on just that. So every one of these apartments needs a door. One of the little tricks you can do is if I click on the right side, the door's on the right side. I can delete the door. If I click on the left side, the door's on the left side. This is kind of helpful because now you can put a bench down here if you have the doors away. If you have the door on the right side, you try and put a bench down here to fulfill that seating requirement for the colonists. Now the doors are blocked and it won't let you. So we'll put the doors, door. Undo that. Once again, these doors all require motors, which is why I brought in the motors earlier. I also had brought in the polymer. Polymer is needed for kind of the next step in the process. we have these apartments. They're nice and empty. However, we can put beds in there. Every colonist needs a bed. There is I've seen, I don't really understand, well, I guess I understand, I don't really see the value in it. You can use couches as bedding for colonists, but I think it makes them unhappy. Also, if you hold down the shift key, you can place multiples. Otherwise, what happens if you don't hold down the shift key, it's like you're done. You get to put one, and then you're done. So you hold down the shift, and you can pop your beds down, or your storage, like I did earlier. And now we'll have beds for half of the colonists that we need. So, we have a place for the colonists to sleep, and what we're going to need is a place for them to eat and work and all that kind of good stuff. Now, generally for contract colonies, I don't, well, for a starter contract colony, what I like to do is I like to put in mostly research and a doctor, because until you turn that colony over, you can use that research. You can use that research to fulfill research contracts. So while the colony is still finishing up, and until that contract time expires or gets close enough for you to turn the colony over, you can go ahead and just bang out as much research as you can. So what I'm going to do is I am going to create, and this is a American colony. So I like to leave a space, kind of define the building a little more. And of course there's new equipment. There's this bioengineering, which is kind of your waste disposal. And here we go. So we'll build out the dining hall. And every dining hall is going to need a kitchen, which will be in there. And robots are your kitchen staff. So you need a place for the robot to recharge. So we'll go ahead and throw down a robot recharging spot, and then we'll go ahead and also throw down the biotechnics room, which basically, it doesn't need to go there. It doesn't need to be even anywhere. You could have it on the other side of your colony, but to me it just makes sense. So we're going to need doors to get into these things. I'm going to change up the door a little. A nice glass door to get into the cafe or dining hall. And then I like to have the little privacy doors, since these are kind of ugly rooms in here. So in here, we're going to need to pick up some cables such that we can have the robot charging station, and we're going to need some electronics for the idle robot storage rack, which you pretty much have to have because the robot's not going to be working 24/7. And then over here we have our bioreactor. This processes waste, food product, organic waste into hydrocarbons. It's not really going to matter for a starter colony. It's just probably a good habit to get into. Now in the cafe, whereas we put beds in there, we're going to need to put some tables for our colonists to enjoy their dinners and whatnot. I throw down a couple tables. Not a big deal. And then what we're also going to need is a place for our robot Emerald Lagasse, or chef, whoever your favorite celebrity chef may be. But we're going to need to throw down a cooking spot for him. And once again, the cooking spot, we're going to need some electronics, and we're going to need some high temperature, what are those called? We're going to need some heat resistant composites. So we don't need a lot of these for a starter colony, so I'm just going to get a few of those. But we are going to need electronics. Electronics are the expensive part. I mean, they are bucks. The electronics, though, you can't get away by skimping on them because of the fact that if you're going to do research, you got to have a lot of electronics. Some other things require a few electronics, but research is the thing that is going to really, really hit you hard when it comes to the electronics. So I'm going to go ahead and spend a bundle here. It's going to hurt, but we still got plenty of money. So we're in good shape. The other thing when it comes to the kitchen that you're going to need is you're going to need the food types appropriate for the kind of cuisine you're cooking. So I know that the American food, the American cafe uses meat and spices and wheat, as well as water. So I'll go ahead and order all those while I'm at it, and we'll get that going. So what we're going to do is, now that we have the composites that we needed, we can actually build our little Emerald Lagasse cooking station. Bobby Flay, or take your pick. Is it weird that I know like celebrity chef names? I used to like those shows. Anyway, so we got to pop that down, and that means we will have our ability now to have a cook in here. Just for decor purposes, we'll throw down a like refrigerator thing too. Now we could go ahead and hire our cook. Our cook would come as a robot. Robots are the only ones who do any cooking, so it doesn't hurt to go ahead and bring him in. Cost a little bit of money. There we go. He'll be on the way. Go ahead and start the clock going. Now, earlier I had mentioned that hallways were important for seating. We go in here, we can see that we have some seating options. And the seating options are different based on whether you are on a surface colony or on a spaceship. If you're on a spaceship, whether it's a station or an actual ship with engines, and we'll get to that in a later video, you'll have additional seating options, mainly like chairs. Unfortunately, on a colony, all you have the option for is, and here comes that spaceship. All you have the option for is your benches, and you need basically one bench per colonist. As you can see in the little outline, it only shows one colonist seating per bench. So we'll go ahead and throw down some benches. Once again, holding the space or the shift key allows us to drop down some benches. And seating is important because you will not have happy colonists without it. Personally, I just go sit on my bed, but they don't do that. So we have a robot cook now. Let's see. We go in here and we have to assign that cook. Oh, he's not actually here yet because our rocket hadn't taken off yet. We gotta wait for the rocket to take off, then we'll have the cook, then we can assign him. In the meantime, we shall go ahead and throw down a few more benches while we're waiting for that to happen. All right. So we go a bench, and a bench, and a bench, and a bench. Turn these around, and throw down some more. We'll throw down some other seating in other places. That way we get that one for each. 32, I believe, is what we're after.
Now, the other thing that would need to happen, we will start in, we'll pick up in the next video, but that's basically to start creating some jobs. Jobs I like to use for colonies I'm going to be turning over. Contract colonies are going to be predominantly, they're going to be either research or medical. Medical doesn't take a lot. Research does, but it's useful. So even though in some longer term colonies, you might want to go ahead and do both industrial and miners, because you can end up basically using that colony again to get some freebies while you're at it. You can have them producing basically electronic structural components, lights, etc. But right now, I think actually what we're going to do is we're going to cut this off here. And when we come back, oh no, we're going to assign that cook first. So we got the cook, and that's how we assign them. Once again, you just click on the assign staff, and then you have to assign them. Same thing applies to human colonists. You got to assign them to their job duties, whether that's medical, industrial, whatever it may be. The nice thing is you don't have to assign them to apartments or beds. That automatically happens. Likewise, it automatically happens for our robot cooks or farmers down the road. But we'll go ahead and throw down at least a storage rack for the idle robot. I do believe I may have forgotten to pick up the wires. Yeah, we'll have to pick up cables. I'll do that before the next stream. And but thanks for watching. Please, if you have any suggestions, comments, etc., leave me a like, leave me a notes down below, and I'll be taking a look and getting back to you. As I say, I'm really enjoying this game, and I'm just hoping to find more people who are likewise into this kind of genre, and maybe we can get a better community going, help out the developer, but just more people to chat with and have fun with. Y'all take care.